Tomorrow's technology today, securely wired to the cloud. Welcome to our on-demand executive webinar series, where we educate C-suite executives and IT managers on the latest cybersecurity concerns.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started here. I would like to welcome everyone to our 5 steps to protecting your business from a cyber attack. I'm going to go through some of the formalities here. I am Amy Spriggs, the Director of Marketing Strategy here for Tomorrow's Technology Today, and I will be monitoring the Q&A throughout today's session. So if you have any questions at all, feel free to type them in where it says questions. That's the best place to put it. That way I know I can tick off the list. I could possibly miss it in the chat. I'll try to watch both, but it's best if you put it in the questions. I'll make sure that we get those questions answered today. Also, this is being recorded. Those of you who are on this webinar, you will get a copy of this sent to you in your email tomorrow morning. So it is being recorded, so don't feel like you have to jot down every single note. You will get this tomorrow. Feel free to make notes, that's fine. But again, you don't have to write everything down or screenshot everything. It will be sent to you. With that being said, we are going to go ahead and get started today. And I'm not sure, I see you on here now, Kathy. I'm not sure if you have the microphone working or no microphone.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yay! All right.
Great.
We were having a little technical difficulties with Kathy's microphone. With that being said, we have the Ohio Small Business Development Centers at Rhodes State College. Kathy is working with them, and she is here to tell you a little bit why we are doing this today. And so I'm going to turn it over to the ladies and mute myself. Go ahead, Kathy.
Thank you very much. I apologize. The color is, I'm seeing, not very good on this webcam. We actually just moved offices this week, and this is my first experience on this, and I see that we need to have IT come in and make some adjustments, but thank you so much. So I am Kathy Keller. I'm the Director of the Small Business Development Center at Rhodes State College, and entering my 16th year in that position. And I want to welcome all of you today, and thank you for joining us. So we are able to bring this to you today at no charge, thanks to a grant that the Ohio Department of Development and Ohio Small Business Development Centers received through the CARES Act funding. And with that, they wanted us to be able to bring some very important topics to our small businesses to help them survive and thrive as we retool in this new world of small business. So with that, I partnered with Lisa Niekamp Irwin at Tomorrow's Technology Today, and she was very, very excited about partnering with us and presenting this webinar. And additionally, she has some added value if you attend both of the webinars that all of our small businesses can use. And cyber security, cyber attacks are very prevalent. And just because you're a small business doesn't mean it can't happen to you. And so with that, I want to introduce Lisa, who is going to lead us on a fabulous 5 steps to protecting our business. Again, thanks so much, Lisa. We appreciate your expertise, and enjoy the seminar.
Thanks, Kathy. You know, actually, I was just, as you said that, I was thinking back, wow, you know, whenever I started my business, we had lunch and we talked together about, you know, how to make this all happen. So this is kind of neat, you know, kind of all of it coming together, you know, wrapping back around, and I can give back a little bit. So
thank you very much. And how many years ago was that, Lisa?
I'm thinking I was probably in business a few years, so probably about 15 years ago.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Super. Well, congratulations on surviving that small business for that length of time. That's terrific.
All right, so we're going to get started here. What I want to introduce myself, you know, is that some of you I've not met yet. So I want to give you a brief introduction about myself. I'm Lisa Niekamp Irwin. I'm President and CEO of Tomorrow's Technology Today. We're in St. Henry, Ohio. We were founded in 2002. So we're a technology services provider servicing companies actually all across the United States. Our core focus is building a great company with great people that do great work. We develop a cybersecurity service for businesses, but what we do differently is our delivery comes with a 100% satisfaction guarantee. The right cybersecurity solution means having layers of protection without breaking the bank account. I am also the author of The Sitting Duck, Why Your Business is a Cyber Criminal's Ideal Target. On the day of release, Sitting Duck reached bestseller status in Amazon, and it was reached as high as #1 in 10 different categories. I love this business and the opportunities and the friends it has brought to my life. I wouldn't trade this for the world, but I hope it shows in what we do. We love what we do, and some days come with great challenges. Other days bring us great rewards. But that's technology, and that's what we love. In preparing for the webinar, I went to one of my oldest clients and asked him, why do you think other CEOs should take cybercrime seriously like you do? And Mike's story is a little unique. His fellow colleague of a billion-dollar manufacturing company with multiple locations was hit 2 times with ransomware. And I remember from that call, after they had talked to him, he made a call to us, and it prompted an immediate meeting with him. And I said, yes, everyone can get hit, but here's how we have you protected, and here's what we're going to do if you get hit. So what Kathy and I are doing with this presentation is to bring you information you need to either help you get things started or revisit actually what you have. So let's get started. So here's what I'm going to share with you today. We're going to talk about the 5 steps in cybersecurity, how to protect your business. So over the last year, there's been a significant increase in sophistication, frequency, and severity of cybercrime attacks. Because of this, we've been watching these trends, putting in place new technologies, protocols, services to protect our clients. However, many of these things, what worked even a year ago, is no longer effective. Plus, the attacks are becoming more frequent, more vicious, carrying bigger consequences. So this is why we're talking to you today. This is why I've partnered with the Small Business Development Centers at Rhodes State College. This is very real. This is a very serious threat that is escalating. And we want to get this information into every business owner's hands. So now's the perfect time for you to get out that pen and paper, and let's start making some notes. Let's talk about your data. Do you know where your employees are storing information? Are you sure of its locations, and is it being backed up? Do you know what kinds of information is located in your company? This is the first step. I want you to write down locate all data. Sounds like a big task to take on, but you need to think through all of those pieces. Are you using POP or IMAP for your email? An email is vital tracking means to most businesses. As a betting person, the odds are with me that that's not being backed up. And if you're doing a full system backup on your computer, you're still using PST files, which are very unreliable for historical purposes. Once you know where your data is located, now you need to classify that information. Do you have any driver's license numbers, social security numbers, dates of birth, credit card numbers? We're all guilty of it. I'm in a hurry. I grab that info. It's time to get that benefits renewal to the insurance agency. I get it all in a spreadsheet. I send it in a secure email. Obviously I save it to my computer because I don't want to lose it. Making sure you know where that sensitive information is and making sure that it's protected. I keep an encrypted folder actually on my computer. So I have to have, in order to get into that encrypted folder, I have to have the authorization. I have to have the certification to get into that. And that's where my sensitive information is. So if a hacker's on the network, they would also need to get into my BitLocker key to get into that folder. So, this is your obligation to be a good steward of data collection. You would expect this out of your vendors, and I think that, you should do this for your business. The second step, educate your employees. If you don't take this seriously, you can't expect them to. 80% of the workforce comes to work to do their job, right? They don't think beyond the boundaries, and they don't know what they don't know. I've talked with prospects that collect driver's license numbers via their job application on their website. They never gave it a thought about where that information is saved. Every company has something. It's important that they are educated. Know where your employees are saving their passwords. Saving them in the browsers is very risky because hacker gets on that computer, they can go read browser data. So you need to know where they're saving their passwords. And in our office, there's a saying that says, what happens when you get hit by the bus? I need to know how to get into certain things. I need to know what's happening. And it's a very real story for me because I did have an employee go on vacation, and he rented a motorcycle, and he did get in a motorcycle accident. He was never able to return to work. So because of the pieces that we have in place, I had all of the passwords to get into the applications, and we were able to keep our websites rolling. So, you got to take the passwords seriously. Know your protection. I met one prospect that was rotating hard drives in the company computers. So he had RAID set up, and 2 hard drives, they were mirrored. And so he didn't have to buy backup software. He just every week would rotate out the hard drive, the mirrored hard drive, and put it in his safe. To each his own, but that's may not be scalable, for a business. Maybe it's worth saving that $30 a month, but the important fact here is knowing your gaps. So from that time that he puts that in the safe, and if it's a week later that he puts the next one in the safe, what happens if that breach happens right before that and he has ransomware? He's got a week's worth of data that he doesn't have backed up. So you have to have the paper processes in place to be able to take care of something like that. So how do you protect yourself? I got a couple tips here. Tip number 1, back up your data. Understand that gap in time and the recovery time. Saving that $30 a month per computer, maybe that's worth it for you, but you need to make sure that you have those gaps covered. You've got to have a disaster recovery plan. There is no time to put that disaster recovery plan together when you're in the disaster. It's too late at that point. You're just fighting fires. So no matter where you are in your state of business, whether you're just a startup or whether you're 20 years old, you've got to have that disaster recovery plan. It doesn't take long to do it, but if you have it documented and write down when that ransomware attack happens, you can pull that out and you know what your steps are going to be. You need to know how to recover and how much time it's going to take you. So if you have your data offsite, you're going to have to pull it down. What's your internet speed? What is your download speed? If you're in a rural area and your download speed is only 10 meg down, that's going to take a long time to get 200 plus meg of data down to your computer. So you've got to think these things through, and actually doing a test of it is never a bad idea. Hackers know what they're looking for, and they know how backup programs work. So if you're relying on your backup to be local, because that can speed you up in the recovery, they're going to find that, and that's what they're going to remove. Tip number 2, better banking practices. One of the things that I do is I have different accounts. We have one account that all of our debit transactions happen in. We have another account that has all of our credit transactions happening in. We have the third account, and that's in a sense our savings account. Yeah, it's maintenance. The accounts payable person thought I was crazy when I first said this, but now it's just part of the routine. if either of those credit and debit account numbers get out, the amount of money that I'm going to lose from those accounts are a lot less than that third account. And I never, ever use that third account anywhere in the electronic world. So that account is not on a debit card. That account is truly everything that I transfer into. So you've got to make sure you've protected yourself, and you're monitoring these accounts, you know as the transactions happen. Tip number 3, talk to your insurer and talk to the insurance agency that you work with. At this point, every company, whether you're a startup or whether you're 20 years in business, you've got to have cyber insurance. The forensics is expensive. If you have an attack in your business, you've got to figure out how they got in. Knowing that somebody just clicked on an email is not enough. You've got to figure out, is there anything left in that network? And just like I was talking about Mike's colleague, that second ransomware attack happened because they didn't do full forensics. The hacker stayed and laid low in the business, in the network, and then they attacked a month later. So they got them once and they got them twice. So you've got to do the forensics. And even if you're a startup company, even though if you don't have that much information, you still have information, you still have to get rolling again. And actually there's been ransomware attacks that have actually what we call bricked a computer. They attack the BIOS on that computer. So when you reboot it, it doesn't even boot back up. That it literally makes it a brick. Use strong passwords. You've got to encourage everybody at your business, whether you or your employees. You can't be using it on a Post-it note. You can't keep it in a spreadsheet. You can't put a password on a spreadsheet. I don't know how many times I get spreadsheets from vendors that have like some calculations in them or something. I hand them over to Tony, our security operations manager here, and I say, hey, can you crack that spreadsheet for me? Because I want to change a couple of these formulas. 10 minutes later, he has me back the spreadsheet. So thinking that you can put a password on your spreadsheet to save your passwords, that's not enough. That's not enough security. You've got to, I really highly encourage you using a password manager. And I know that seems like an oxymoron, I'm going to put my passwords up in the cloud, but because of the encryption and the way they have them locked down and authenticated, if you have a multi-factor authentication on it, you've got it secured. So to me, that is the best of the best to do that. Upgrade your security. You've got to make sure that your computers are being patched. There is vulnerabilities that are out there that all they do is take advantage of the things that people haven't patched. So Microsoft says, hey, we've got this security problem in this part of the operating system. Apply this patch and it's all taken care of. People don't apply those patches, and what hackers do is take advantage of that security vulnerability and then exploit you through it. So keeping those patches in place, doing your BIOS updates on your computers, using a business class antivirus. The antivirus in your Windows computer, Windows 10, is really good. The problem is in the business, there's nobody watching it and monitoring it. So you don't know when the hacker turns that off. Nobody's getting alerted to that. So you've got to have a business, and what I mean by a business class, it kind of all funnels up to a dashboard. And so in that dashboard, it can alert you, it can let you know when there's some malware that it finds, if it's not able to quarantine something. By having that business, what I call business class antivirus, you can see what's going on in that network. Monitoring your AV, you need to have a business class firewall in place. Now, Fortunately, these days, there's two different ways of doing that. The Windows firewall is not enough, but there are companies that have what we call soft firewalls that actually go on devices. And that's actually what we're rolling out to a lot of our companies, because a lot of our clients, because so many remote workers, they're no longer behind that corporate firewall. So we put a firewall on that computer. It then has content filtering in it. It also has intrusion prevention. It gives us a lot of reporting, and we can see things that are happening there as far as the security piece of it. Now, if everybody's in the office, you can utilize a business class firewall. The one that we typically use is a SonicWall, and it has services on it. So when you buy that SonicWall and you put it in place, it's never put it in place and forget it. You've got to make sure that the firmware is up to date. You've got to make sure that the subscription's renewing. Same thing with the software firewalls. Turn off 3389. It's called RDP, Remote Desktop Protocol. That is a way, another big vulnerability that hackers can get into the network, take advantage of things. Number one, do not use RDP do not open a port on your firewall and use remote desktop protocol to get into your network. That is a huge no. There's just too many security risks with that. There's different programs that you can use, like a LogMeIn, things like that, or use a VPN. But if you use a VPN and RDP into your network, you've got to make sure there is multi-factor authentication on that VPN credentials. So a lot to think about there, but keep those pieces in mind. Using a business class email account. Before I talked about that, that POP or that IMAP, that's not business class anymore. It's not secure. That is like talking, the old days whenever you had a cup and a string. To me, POP and IMAP, it's like talking across that string. Everybody can hear it, right? So, and same with the ISPs. ISP email is meant for personal use. It's meant for home use. It doesn't have that security in there. And if you really talk to an ISP and really ask them more about that email, that's exactly what they're going to say. They are not meant to give the business an email. Microsoft is a business services company. I highly recommend going to Microsoft and using Microsoft 365 and putting your email up there. The other option is Google. Google has paid email services too. One thing you want to think about with Google, though, Google is an advertising company. So your data is what they want so that they can mine it and so that they can use it for advertising, to sell to companies for advertising, using that sense. I'm not saying that they're giving your data away, but they're using it for statistics, things of that nature. Now, Microsoft is a business services company, and they are dedicated. They spend $1 billion a year on research and development on security. That is more than all the other vendors together. So they're very serious about security, and they are very serious about helping businesses. Common sense, common sense security. In your business, we just did a migration for a company, and the way that the prior IT company had the directory set up, if people really would have dug differently, they could have easily got to different data. So you have to have your data mapped out so that, again, I said, finding that data in your company, you need to make sure that it's on an as need to know basis. It just prevents the risk. There's no sense in giving that risk, taking on that risk for all the employees. So give them the access that they need to do their jobs. No one should work daily as a domain admin in a business. Not even your IT guys, not even your technology people. When they need to do domain admin work, they need to change to that credentials. If they're working day to day in that domain admin and they get an email, and dang, those emails are good these days. They are tricky. All they have to do is click on that. And as a domain admin, they have just gave away the keys to the kingdom. So think about that. Social media. It's really important to train your staff on social engineering. Everybody here knows what my signature looks like. They know how the internal emails look. You know, they know we've gone through our shares of spoofing, and you've got to question anything. You know, if I'm emailing one of the supervisors and asking for them to go get iTunes gift cards because you know I want to provide some reward, you know, for that great project we just wrapped up. That's not the way we work. That's not what we do. And if they have any doubt, they should be asking. They need to verify via voice. They can't just reply in email, because if somebody's email address has been compromised, there's a good chance that there's a rule probably set up, and that hacker is going to reply back as that person. So, so know the source. Don't click on Facebook ads. And another really easy thing is using bookmarks. Don't type in the URLs. There are so many times that those misspelled URLs, typing fast, misspelled URLs, goes to a bad site. So that's what they do. Tip number 9 is physical security. You know, whenever you're done with those computers, when you retire computers, don't just, you know, donate them. You need to pull those hard drives from them. The hard drives need to be erased. There's an ISO eraser that you do to it so that nobody can ever get to that data, or they need to be destroyed. Here we do hard drive shredding. So we have a company come in once a year. We collect all the hard drives. We give them milk carton crates full of drives, and they give us a certification that they've shredded those drives. So, you know, because all of that data that's on those drives, it's not worth it. It's not worth recycling those drives. Disk drives are pretty darn cheap anymore. So, you know, make sure that in the physical security that you think about that. Talked a little bit about employee education. You know, train the staff. You need to have ongoing reminders. You need to be doing phishing tests. We do monthly training with our clients. They're about 4 to 6 8-minute videos, just informing them, you know, what the hackers are up to, why they spoof, what they're doing, you know, why it's happening, what they're gaining from it. So just that constant reminder, you know, top of mind is the best way that it's going to keep you protected. So, you know, are you truly protected? Can you imagine coming to work after a long holiday weekend? You're refreshed from some time off, or, you know, maybe you're kind of like me and you get caught up on all the backlog because you love those holidays because nobody's bothering you, right? So you had a chance to work on the business, and you walk in and there's a ransomware screen. You've got to look at that security. Security is so specialized now. You know, you can do your own technology. I get it. You know, maybe you're quite the techno savvy guy and it comes naturally for you. And maybe, you know, you have time in your business to take care of those kind of things. You're awesome at those spreadsheets. You can put together those macros. You can do some Power BI, you know, those kind of things. But when it comes to security, my security guy, that's all he does. He spends 40+ hours a week on that. And we also have partnered with a security company, and we are constantly in the works with them. So I really think you got to hire out that security. I know that it's easy for me to say I'm the security company, but this is a niche. This is something that I found that in business, it's such a need for. everybody knows that security comes with a price, just like putting that security system in your house, right? There's a price with it. Now, you can install your own, but how much risk do you want to take on? If you're in a high crime area and you install your own security system and you don't have a security monitoring company listening for it, those are all the things that you have to weigh in your decision as to the cost versus, the risk. Doing your technology is much different than doing security. You want to make sure that you have the time to figure it all out, that you've thought through all of the things. And the worst part to all of this is that security changes so rapidly. What we were doing 60 days ago, quotes that I put out, proposals that I put out 60 days ago, that technology has changed. I mean, there's parts, the way we're doing things, it's so much different. The threat landscape just changes daily. So you got to understand how hackers work. So if you take the analogy of breaking into your house, they scope out the neighborhoods, right? They scope out what house looks like the biggest opportunity for them, right? What can they get the biggest bang for their buck? And that's the same thing that happens in the hacker world. With social engineering and dark web lists, they figure out what companies and how much a company can afford to pay, right? So they figure out how to get in there without being detected. In the cyber world, 80% of the time, it's from an email. Now that they're in the house, if you imagine they're in your network, it's dark, just like in your house, they break in probably at night. They got to figure out their way around, from room to room. Where's the jewelry? Where's the safe? And that's exactly what happens in the cyber world. They are traversing through that network, figuring out what computers, what server, who holds that data. Where can they take advantage of what they can find, right? There's actually various jobs in the hacker world, and that's how they make their money. So there's a job where they actually work to find valuable IP, and they can sell that data, and that's how they make their money. On those credit card numbers, on that HR information, on the intellectual property. China wants to pay for American IP. They want it. They want to be number one. And I hear so often that I don't have anything they would want. And that is so not true. How can you be in business? You're in business, you're making money. Somebody's paying you. So you're part of the economic system, and that's exactly what China wants. They don't want to spend the time re-engineering. They want to buy that IP and figure out and do it on their own. The final step in a breach is typically ransomware, malware, and crypto mining. Crypto mining is where they take over those computers. So they'll lay in your network, and when they see that everybody's gone home, they then speed up that. They use the CPU on the computer, and they're mining Bitcoin. They're mining money, and that's how they use the CPU from different places to in a sense generate the Bitcoins. So unfortunately, hackers have now taken us one step further, and they can leave us inoperable. They can, they take that computer CPU too high. They can brick that BIOS. You had the Exchange server attack, where companies actually host their email internally on what we call an Exchange server. And that included malware, and that malware then would invoke payloads, and they would actually then inject into the BIOS, and that's when they left those computers useless. So, this is a good time to kind of work through the costs. I'm running a little long on this, so I'm going to kind of do this more at a high level. But what you want to do is figure out, take out a pencil and paper, figure out, let's start with the list of who and what departments are still able to work without that computer. How long can they work without that computer? I think in the sense of my husband is a salesman for commercial roofing sales. His computer, he could go and take care of things on the roof, do measurements, core cuts, all of those kind of things. That can all happen without the computer. So he can keep going, but now it comes back to getting that proposal together, getting that bid out there. And that's where, it kind of stops them in the water. So looking at each position in your company and understanding how long can they work without the computer. When things are locked up, they are locked up. And next week, I'm going to talk a lot about ransomware. And I'm going to walk you through the whole steps and understanding what it's like to go through a ransomware attack. So we'll dig a lot deeper into that so that you can get a feeling and understand what we're looking at. Now, if you have your email hosted at Microsoft 365, that email is going to keep working, right? So your vendors and your clients are not going to really know that you're down, right? They're going to keep emailing you. So as long as you have mobile phones, tablets, maybe a laptop that wasn't on the network, remote workers that weren't on the network when that happened, they will all keep working. So you need to, just kind of think through all these scenarios and start to add up. So as each of those people are now dead in the water, now the dollars start clicking. That's the cost that you have whenever you have a breach and your people can't work. Again, as I said, they come to work, so they think they're protected. That's your due diligence, is to make sure your business is running, right? They want their paycheck. They want to come in, do their work. And if you're not protecting that, that's where they're disappointed in the company. I was actually at family get together, and it was my daughter's, a couple of their college friends were there, and two of the friends there, both work for different companies, both experienced a ransomware attack this summer. And I talked to them a little bit about how did they feel about that whole thing, and they were really disappointed in the company. They had no idea what happened, how it happened. All they knew is that their computers worked, but they couldn't get to any of their emails. So they had to keep calling people. Everything kind of started spinning. They said they were very unprotective. And it took them about 10 days to 2 weeks actually to get back into business. So, you got to think about those kind of costs and what that's truly costing your business. A real quick story about one of the manufacturing companies. They send their payroll out to an accountant. The accountant processes payroll, and their process was then that the owner would get an ACH email from the bank, and he would review it, and he knew everything was good. Well, one came in one week, and it was higher than normal. Red flag, right? So he calls the bank. They stop the transaction before it happened. The bank then went through all of the processes. Okay, we're going to change all of the authentications. They did nothing by email. They did everything by mail and phone. Okay, so no possibility of any of these authorizations to be read through electronic, right? So a few weeks go by, another payroll, another ACH verification came in. But what happened in this one is that it came late in the evening, and it didn't dawn on him that it wasn't in during his normal time. He figured out, the payroll company may be running late, something of that nature, I'm guessing, but when he came in the next morning, he found the ACH email confirmation, but it is in between a whole bunch of spam email. So what the hacker had done was spam the email before, during, and after the ACH transaction, thinking that he would kind of miss that. So they were able to, then, at that point, because it happened overnight, and he caught it in the morning, the ACH transaction actually did happen then. In my opinion, what happened and how they kind of stopped the whole thing was the accounting firm was actually using an outdated firewall. The hacker took advantage of the vulnerabilities and put what we call a man in the middle. And what that is literally the hacker was in the middle of all the transactions that were going through that firewall. So he would stop the ACH file from going through. He would modify it, and then he'd send it on. And he was modifying it and putting in the account, changing the account numbers and the routing and account numbers. They went to paper checks for a while. Obviously, that helped things. And then my advice was, unless your accountant can tell you how they stop this, we know that it's something at the accounting side. You need to, they need to tell you how they fix this. They need to be good stewards of your data. So this brings in light, they did replace their firewall. That's where they believe that the vulnerability was. So this brings in light that, you've got to make sure that your vendors are secure too. So the good news here is, as Kathy had mentioned, we can help you get started. What we're going to do is just a 10-minute consultation. I have some questions I'm going to ask you. We're going to walk through a few things. We're going to kind of talk through a couple things. And then from there, what we would do is we're going to do a dark web scan on your domain. We're going to do an external vulnerability scan. You're going to have to help me get your external IP. I can talk you through all of this. If you're interested in a ransomware risk scan, this is actually going to put an agent on 3 to 5 computers of your network. Now, that is not going to take any data. We are not doing anything invasive other than it's going to see how a ransomware attack could possibly happen. And then it provides us a report to that. The other piece to this is what we call a cybersecurity pen test. This is a couple downloads that you will have, and you will execute those on a few computers. That will call back to my portal, and then in each portal is each prospect's, each of your accounts. And what we do is we are able to gather information from that. It reads through your browser. It looks to see how your browsers are set up. Are you saving passwords in there? It can see if a payload would execute, what kind of malware can happen in there. Do you have open ports? Things of that nature. So after that, after I get that findings back from our security portal, then I will put together a report of findings for you. So in this report of findings, I'm going to give you actionable steps. I'm going to say you're not using antivirus. I'm going to list out all the things that we find, and you will have actionable steps. You can literally take this report and take it to your IT person, company, whatever, and say, here's what we found when we did an assessment. How do we fix these things? These are things that they're saying are vulnerabilities. Let's get these fixed. It's not by any means meant to point fingers at anybody. You don't know what you don't know. So to do this, all you do is go to this website, tomtechtoday.com/cyber-audit. I know you're extremely busy and there's enormous temptations to discard this, shrug it off, worry about it later, or dismiss it altogether. You're covered, right? That is undoubtedly the easy choice. But the easy choice is rarely the right choice, right? I can guarantee this. At some point, you are going to have to deal with a cybersecurity event. Hopefully, you'll be brilliantly prepared for it and experience only minor inconvenience at the most. But if you wait and do nothing, I can practically guarantee it'll be far more costly, disruptive and devastating attack that will happen to your business. You've spent a lifetime working hard to get where you are today. Don't let some low-life thief operating outside the law in another country get away with taking that from you. And certainly don't hope your techs have it covered. Get the facts, and that way you're certain that you're prepared. So that's what I have for this today. I want to remind you that next week, same time, next Thursday at noon, I'm going to talk about ransomware. I'm going to walk through exactly what happens, how it happens, what to do about it, what you can do to prevent about it. Amy, do we have any questions? I know I ran a little over.
That's all right. I do not see any questions in there. I did go into the chat and send the link out to everyone so they can just click right on it if they want to. We do also have a handout in the files if they want that. And anything else, we will get sent to them tomorrow morning in their email, and they'll be able to reach all of this.
Great. That handout that I have, you want to download that. That's the 12 ways to prevent a cyber attack. It kind of walks through some of those things with the tips, but it's a great way of looking at your network, looking at your business, and being able to check mark off, yeah, we got this covered. No, we need to talk about that. Yes, I need to talk to that insurance agency, just understanding all of that pieces. So don't forget to download that before you exit out.
Yep.
Anything else, Amy?
Oh, wait, we did get one. Hang on one second. There's a question that just popped in, and
Okay.
it said, are you familiar with the new CMMC government standards?
Oh, yes. In regulation, to all of us, regulations are coming more and more. The first level here, what they're really invoking is what we call NIST, the NIST standards, getting you just to identify where you are in those security pieces and identifying your plan of action. This audit will bring some of those pieces to place, but it is not by any means a full CMC level 1 audit at all. But it does bring some of the pieces to play as to the things that you need to look on the security side. There's a lot more than just the cybersecurity with the CMMC. There's a lot of processes and procedures that you need to do to protect that unclassified data. So, yep, we're very familiar with that. Have a few manufacturing companies that are working through that. So, I think that might answer their question.
Yep, I would say. If that did not, go ahead and pop another question in there. Anyone else who has questions, feel free. Oh, she said thank you, so it's answered. Anyone else who has any questions, feel free to pop those in there real quick now, and we'll make sure we get those. And go ahead and get into the handouts and download that for yourself really quickly. I will try to add that as well as an option to the email too, possibly. Otherwise, I'll have it on the page. I'll make sure it gets on the page. So it'll be a nice, easy thing for you to grab. You'll get a link to a page tomorrow that will give you the recording and all the other items. I'll make sure it gets on that page.
And you'll have my email address. Anybody that wants to email me, I seriously am passionate about this and really want to help anybody that I can. Obviously, I'm in business to be in business, but anything I can do to help point you in directions, that's what I'm here for.
Absolutely. Awesome. I think that covers everything. Thank you so much, everyone. We really appreciate it. And again, watch for that email tomorrow morning. And we will be back again next Thursday. If you did not sign up for next Thursdays, in that email, you will also have a link on where you can, or get to the link where you can sign up as well. Same website as before. It'll just be the tomtechtoday.com/small-business to sign up for the second session. I know most of you have signed up for both when you registered, but again, feel free to invite anyone else to the second session, totally fine. We are more than welcome, or more than happy to add them, and then we can send them this recording as well at a later date if they sign up. So if there's someone that you're thinking about, another business owner or someone in your company that you think really needs to see this, feel free to send that out to them and or to let us know and have them register, and then I will make sure that they get this recording as well.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for taking time out of your day. I really do appreciate it.